Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Exit to Excel. This is the podcast where we take career setbacks and stagnation and turn them into opportunities with truth, tools, transformation, practical advice, and positive energy. I'm your co host, Latanya. They call me LT, and I'm here because I am a former HR leader, now a career strategist and talent advisor who has decided to devote my time and energy towards helping people like you who are in need of a breakthrough in this crazy, crazy market. Now, over the past couple of weeks, all that I've been seeing pop up in my feed is the state of the recent college graduate unemployment. And it is unlike anything we have seen in a very, very long time. Did you know that the unemployment rate among recent college grads is the highest it has been in a decade outside of the pandemic? Did you know that the unemployment for recent college graduates now exceeds the entire general US population? And did you know that the job openings for new grads has decreased by 1 million between January of 2024 and March of 2025, leading to a no hire, no fire environment with companies? Well, what does that mean? It means that they're going to be slow rolling terminations. Also, people are choosing not to leave their jobs because they are afraid of the unpredictability of the job market right now. And all of this is leading to fewer job openings for recent college grads and making it harder for them to get into these entry level roles. So, because of this, I am devoting this entire episode specifically for my recent college grads. Now, even though I'm saying college grads and most of it is geared towards college grads, this also goes for recent high school graduates because I know your parents are wanting to get you off of their payroll too. But I think what I'm going to do is do an episode for people who, the college scene may not be for them, and talk about some other job opportunities, particularly in trade jobs, because that is a very, very hot market right now and nothing to sneeze at. So I think we'll talk about that later on. But at the end of the day, it's mainly geared towards recent graduates, mainly college, but also high school. So if that applies to you, or if that applies to your son, your daughter, your nieces, your nephews, hit that share button, send this to them because this is something they're going to want to hear because this unemployment scene that we're seeing right now with this population requires new rules for new grads. And that's what we're talking about today. So thank you for being here. So before we get started, or actually, if you stay tuned for this episode, what you're going to hear is, and what you'll learn is understanding exactly why traditional job search advice is failing new graduates and what they need to do instead. You're going to master the first draft framework, the FDF framework, which is my systematic approach to positioning yourself as talent companies want to draft. 3, you're going to have very specific AI powered tools. I love my AI. I'm going to give you some AI powered tools and prompts that will allow you to break through application filters and be able to demonstrate your value. I'm going to show you the hidden market where 63% of entry level opportunities actually exist. And finally, you'll actually be able to walk away with industry specific strategies and a complete action plan. Because this is the thing, I know if you've been following me, all you hear me talk about is strategy, strategy, strategy. But you know why? That is because strategy is about making choices and deliberately choosing to do things different, which is required in the job market today. So you'll hear me talk about strategy all throughout my frameworks and counseling because it is absolutely warranted. But before we get started in today's episode, I would like to dive into our Ask LT segment. And again, thank those of you who listened last week about the offers and how you're negotiating and all that. I think that's great. Keep sharing your stories. I love hearing them. And the DMs and the messages you're leaving me on my social media. We're having a very interesting conversation right now about why nobody likes HR. So, particularly on my TikTok. So, if you want to get in on that conversation and share your experience, please do. That is Exit to Excel on my TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also comment here as well on my YouTube. And while you're at it, share, subscribe. It helps a lot. And I'm also, engaging with people here as well. So thank you in advance for that. So I have been holding back some questions that I've been getting from new grads and quite frankly from parents as well, about the current job market. And so I wanted to bring some of those up today because they are quite applicable to what we're going to be talking about today. So I have one from Jessica who asked, LT, I graduated with a 3.8 GPA in marketing. I did 2 internships and I've applied for over 200 jobs and I've gotten maybe 5 responses. What am I doing wrong? I'm starting to think that I should have stayed in school longer. So, Jessica, this is the thing. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just that the traditional ways of applying for a job when you got out of school, the methods that my generation did and other generations as well, they just don't work today. They don't work today because of the competitiveness. They don't work today because of the AI filtering. So today I'm going to show you how you can apply new methodology and new rules based on today's current environment. But congratulations on your achievements. That's a lot to be proud of. But we're going to position you where you're going to be able to get the job that you want and that you deserve. So thank you for your question. I have another question from Mark. Mark says, hey, I have a liberal arts degree and I keep getting told that I need to figure out what I want to do. But I am willing to work hard and learn anything. How do I compete against people with specialized degrees? So, Mark, I feel your pain. I also graduated with a liberal arts degree. I graduated undergrad with the English degree, but I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do with my English degree. I actually wanted to go into radio and broadcasting, but my university did not have a broadcasting degree available at the time. So I said, well, hey, I will major in English and minor in communications, and then I'll go to broadcasting school to become a radio DJ and producer. Well, needless to say, that didn't pan out. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do with my English degree. And I'm going to tell you how you are able to use your liberal arts degree to your advantage. Because at the end of the day, there are certain strengths and skills that you have because of your degree that gives you a leg up. And so we're going to talk about that later on. So stay tuned. So thank you for your question. Now we have a question from Pam. Pam asks, okay, I'm graduating in May and I am very nervous. Most of my friends who've graduated have not found jobs, and all the stats about new grad and unemployment is making me consider graduate school just so I can delay entering the job market. Is that a good strategy? So, Pam, fear based decisions rarely lead to good outcomes. And while, look, pursuing a higher education is always an excellent idea if you're doing it under the right circumstances. But for me personally, I think you're better off getting some work experience under your belt before pursuing an advanced degree because you may find that, hey, what you want to get an advanced degree in doesn't really suit you. You may want to take a different course or whatever. And I found that having some work experience going into grad school, it helps you excel better in school. And coming out, it gives you a leg up against the other people who came straight through. But that's just a path that I followed. It's different for everybody. But I wouldn't probably base my decision on the job market because who's to say? you're going to spend another 2 or 3 years in grad school and the job market may be the same. So you got to come out and face the music, as they say, sooner or later. So just think through it. Just make sure you're making the decision under the right circumstances and not under, fear or concern. And I trust that you will make the decision that is best for you. But thank you for your question. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are thinking about that same thing. Okay. All right. Now let's dive into this new rules and new grads. Okay. So as I mentioned, I've created a framework called the First Draft Framework, and I'm going to dig into that a little bit deeper shortly. But there's one thing I need to talk about first before we get into that, because if you don't get this right, then nothing else matters. And that is the basics. Okay. The basics are you have to look and sound employable. Okay. What does that mean? It means that at any given time, you can meet somebody that is in a position to give you a job or refer you to a job. But you got to be ready. You got to be ready. And so, not to criticize anybody, okay, but hey, I'm gonna call a thing, okay. As we said, this podcast is about truth, okay. And the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of you walking around out here with baseball caps turned to the back, jeans hanging off your butt, walking around in pajama pants and your bonnets, and you say you are looking for a job. That's not going to cut it, guys. At the end of the day, when someone is approaching you to, with an offer of employment or even to refer you, you are a reflection of them. Okay. You're a reflection of them. And I know there's so many of you, you have an outstanding network through your parents and your family. There are people in your network who own businesses, who are executives in companies that are in a position to refer you, but they're only going to refer you if you are a positive representation of them, which starts with your appearance and how you carry yourself. So look, I don't care if you are going to the Lowe's. I don't care if you're going to the Friday night high school, football game. If you're going to the beach, it doesn't matter. You never know who is watching and who is paying attention. So let me tell you a story. When I was preparing for this podcast, I thought about something that happened about 13 years ago. I had a storage unit at Public Storage in Jersey City. And, to get to your unit, you always had to stop by the front office to get the trolleys and to reserve the elevator. So I tried to avoid going on a Saturday because I knew it was going to be a zoo, but I had to go in on a Saturday, and the office was a zoo. Okay. You had, I guess there were contractors coming in and out. You had, the clients or the customers coming in, waiting to reserve the elevator. You had so much traffic going on. You had one young lady in this office sitting at her desk on the phone. And she was on the phone. Hi, Public Storage. May I help you? Can you hold 1 moment, please? Hey, how are you doing? Yes. Can you just put that over there? Da-da-da. And I was like, when I tell you, she stopped me in my tracks because of how she was handling herself. Very calm, very professional, very pleasant. When she got to me, I said, you know what? Go ahead and help everybody else, because I wanted to check her out and see how she was managing this. So finally, when everybody cleared out the office, I was like, what's your name? And she told me her name. I asked her how long she'd been working there. She'd been working there for 3 or 4 years. And I told her, I want to hire you. I sat back and I watched you handle people on the phone. I watched you handling people coming to the office. I watched you, handling the contractors coming in with nothing but grace and professionalism, and the kindest person ever. And at the time, my company, we did a lot of, we managed call centers, and I knew she was exactly what we needed. So I got her information, but unfortunately it didn't work out because she didn't have transportation. But that is just an example of how you never know who is watching you. So if you have recently graduated and you are looking for a job, start with the basics. Look employable, look and sound like somebody who is worthy of an opportunity in a company and someone who is representative of the company, the hiring manager, your parents, your mentors, your aunts and uncles, or whoever who may be in a position to refer you. And at the end of the day, because today people are so lax in their appearance, it really is low hanging fruit. And just by that simple thing right there will make you stand out and make you memorable. So let's start with that first, and then we can get to the other stuff. Okay. You're welcome. Okay, so now let's get into the first draft framework. Okay, so what is it that separates new graduates who are out here still looking for a job, maybe taking a, Uber job or a DoorDash to get by until they find something, and those who are landing in really great opportunities? The ones who are landing in these great opportunities are not just job applicants. They are prospects who are waiting to be drafted by very good companies. So when you think about the NFL draft or any sports draft, the teams aren't, looking to do the draftees a favor by selecting them. They know that they are making an investment and believe that they will help them win. And that's exactly how companies approach talent. And that is the mindset that you need to have looking for a job. It is, what value can you deliver and how can you communicate that in a way that is going to render you an offer for a great job in a great company. So this is where the first draft framework comes in, the FDF. And it's a systematic approach I've developed specifically for this 2025 graduate reality that we find ourselves in. So what does FDF stand for? The F stands for find your draft position. Identify your unique strengths and break away free from the experience paradox. And we're going to talk about what that paradox is shortly. The D stands for demonstrate your value. Use the value first approach to prove that you're draft worthy before formal opportunities exist. And then F, finalize your selection. Make strategic decisions about opportunities and negotiate from strength. So that is the framework. So let's first talk about why traditional new grad advice is failing. And I don't know if there's some advice that some of your college career offices are giving you, or maybe some of your parents and family members. But unfortunately, having been in the industry, I understand what is working and what isn't. And this is why the advice you've probably have been getting is why it's probably failing. So the old advice is, hey, apply to entry level positions and highlight your degree. Now, I hear a lot of people doing that, right? They will look on LinkedIn, they'll look on different job sites, and they're looking for those entry level jobs. They feel like that's a way for them to get their foot in the door. Well, that doesn't work anymore because AI is eliminating 97% of the applications before humans see it. So if you are not meeting the bare minimum and the bare experience, then you're getting filtered out automatically. Another old advice is, hey, network and ask for informational interviews. This doesn't work because everybody's doing it. Okay. So you need to be able to provide value in order to stand out. And that goes beyond the traditional informational interviews. Another old advice is, hey, be persistent and follow up. The new reality is that companies are so tired. Companies and even people in your network, they tired and they are overwhelmed with people being very persistent and following up and not showing that there's any value, and it starts to feel like spam. So that's why you need to make a take a different approach. Now, this is the new grad advantage that really no one is talking about. In an uncertain economy, new graduates really represent the best value because they're going to get you the highest capabilities at the lowest cost. So that is what companies really, really like. So, what is your advantage that you need to be aware of? One is you offer digital nativity. And what does that mean? You probably grew up in a digital age. You probably don't even remember a time that we didn't have iPads. You probably don't even remember a time that we did not have cell phones. So, because of this, you intuitively understand platforms and tools that many companies and, quite frankly, people sometimes in my generation struggle with. You get it quite naturally because that's all you know. Adaptability. If you've been in school, you've spent 4 years constantly learning new subjects and approaches. So you're used to coming in and getting up to speed and learning new things. Third thing you offer is fresh perspective. You're able to come in with fresh eyes and see problems without the organizational baggage that other employees in the organization may have. And then finally, the value proposition. You're going to have the highest potential at an entry level compensation. So these are the things that you need to be aware of and play to your advantage whenever you are looking for your job opportunity. So let's take a look at Alex, who has had success in knowing his worth and the advantages that he had. So Alex graduated with a business administration degree in May of 2024. And after 150 traditional applications with no responses, he implemented this first draft framework. So instead of applying to posted positions, Alex found his draft position, meaning that he identified what his strength was, and that was in data analysis and social media strategy. He then demonstrated his value. What did he do? He created a comprehensive social media audit for a local tech startup and he delivered it for free. The third thing he did, he finalized his selection. So when the startup asked him to do consulting work, he was able to negotiate a full time marketing coordinator role that they hadn't even thought about. They didn't even know it was a need that they had. So as a result, Alex went from applying to all these jobs and getting rejected to finding an opportunity with a company that created a role for him at a higher salary than he even expected, and actually that they hadn't even budgeted for. That is because he proved his value first. So, how does this FDF framework change the job search game? It changes it because, in addition to your resume, you are going to have them notice your impact. And so instead of competing with a whole bunch of applications, you're going to create your own opportunities. Now, instead of waiting for people to give you experience, you're going to go out and create experiences that are going to demonstrate your capabilities. Now, let me just say, this is work. Okay. This is work. There's no other way that I can get around it. But again, it's the difference between getting in a job in a company where you are able to use your talents and your skills and your degree versus just taking a low hanging fruit and taking anything to be able to get a paycheck. It's up to you. Okay. But I'm going to guide you on how to go about doing these things so that you can land that job. So, first, let's talk about the experience paradox reality. Now, 68% of entry level jobs postings now require 1 to 3 years of experience. And that's where a lot of people, new grads in particular, that's where they tend to stop because they know they don't have the experience. But this is what most people don't understand. Experience and value creation are not the same thing. Companies don't actually need experienced people. They are looking for people who can create value. And your job is to prove you can create value regardless of the traditional experience. So, how do we redefine experience in this new economy? So, traditional experience is where one, I worked at company X for Y years doing Z tasks. The value based experience is hey, I created X outcome using Y approach, resulting in Z measurable impact. Let's say an academic project transformation. Let's say you worked on a project in school. How do you translate that into value for a company? Instead of saying you completed a group project for a market research class, say instead that you led a 4-person team to analyze consumer behavior data from 2,000 survey responses. You identified three key purchase drivers that local businesses implemented, resulting in a 15% increase in conversion rates. Now, how do you transform your academic projects into a value impact statement like that? I'm going to show you an AI prompt that's going to allow you to do that. And you can easily cut and paste it from down below and put it in your, favorite AI tool, Chat GPT or Claude or something else. But here's the prompt. Help me reframe this academic slash internship experience into value based language. There, you want to describe the experience. Focus on the problem solved, the approach used, and the measurable outcomes. Make it sound like professional consulting work. Ask me any questions you have in order to execute this ask. If you are able to think through your college experiences and your projects, you can absolutely turn those into your Star Plus stories that we talked about in previous episodes to be able to put it on a resume to sound like a very sharp, experienced consultant. So it's all right there. You just have to know how to frame it. Now, let's talk about the 4 types of value that new graduates bring. One are technical skills, and this is the software, the analysis, design, coding abilities that you can demonstrate immediately. You can demonstrate strategic thinking. These are problem solving approaches and frameworks that you learned in school. Then you have the digital nativity. This is your intuitive understanding of tech. These are the platforms and the tools and the digital behaviors. And then 4, like we talked about earlier, you have a fresh perspective. You're able to come in and see problems with, fresh eyes through a fresh lens and without the organizational baggage that a lot of employees will have. So again, as you're able to highlight those things on your resume, you are able to demonstrate your value and impact despite having the traditional experience that most people think about. Okay, so let's talk about Sarah's liberal arts transformation. So, Sarah's like me. She graduated with English degree, and understandably so, she felt completely lost and, you know, uncompetitive, not on the same playing field against business majors for marketing roles, which is really what she wanted a job in. So, using the find your draft position approach, she identified her unique value. These were her technical skills, the strong writing, research, and content creation that her English degree provided for her, strategic thinking that a lot of liberal arts degrees will provide through the literary analyses that you have to do in school. You can translate that to market analyses. The digital nativity, look, I don't know of any young person that isn't on social media 24/7. You can absolutely turn that to an advantage. Understand the analytics behind it, behind TikTok and behind Instagram. Some of you know that, and it is like pure gold for companies because you're able to analyze and understand the analytics better than a lot of marketers that are going to cost big money. So use that to your advantage. And then finally, Sarah also had the fresh perspective. She could spot communication gaps that insiders miss because, again, she was looking at it with fresh eyes. So once Sarah was able to identify these advantages, she created a content strategy analysis for a B2B company, identifying why their LinkedIn posts weren't engaging their target audience. And her analysis was so insightful and spot on that the company actually created a role for her as a content marketing associate. And it was specifically for her. So again, I think if you another thing I've also read is that the influencer industry is in the billions of dollars. And a lot of companies are now devoting their marketing and advertising dollars into social media. And there's a lot of opportunity there. So if you're one who really gets into the social media, the engaging, the analytics, and all of that, you can absolutely turn that into a value impact statement on your resume to be able to get positions. Okay. So let's talk about industry specific draft positioning, because I know a lot of you are going to fall under one of these categories. Now, for my liberal arts and BA graduates, your strength is versatility and critical thinking. So you can position yourself for roles that require cross functional communication, change management. That's a huge one, a highly sought after skill. Customer experience design, that's another one. And also content strategy and brand voice. Now, for my business, finance, and accounting graduates, your strength is analytical thinking and business fundamentals. Fundamentals. You can position yourself for data analysis and reporting, process improvement projects, financial modeling and forecasting, and operations optimization. For my STEM graduates, your strength is technical problem solving and methodology. Position yourself for data science and analytics projects, process automation and efficiency, technical consulting and writing and training. That's another big one, and innovation and product development. So I'm going to give you another AI prompt that you can use to help you draft your position analysis. So here it is here. Based on my major in whatever field you are in and these experiences and list them, help me identify my top 3 unique value propositions for entering whatever your target industry is. What specific problems could I solve that other candidates might not be able to address? Ask me any questions that you have in order to be able to execute this ask. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about the portfolio project strategy. So instead of waiting for someone to give you experience, you can create experience through strategic projects and be able to start using those to create a portfolio. So let's say, for example, if you are in marketing, you can create a complete brand audit and strategy proposal for a real business. If you're in finance, you can build financial models analyzing public company performance and marketing trends. All that information is available. For tech graduates, develop an app or a tool that solves a specific problem that you've identified. And again, there's enough public information out there that you can identify the problems that companies are dealing with. And then next, for operations, you can design process improvements for local businesses or nonprofits. Now, micro experience creation. Now, these are smaller gigs, so to speak, that will also give you experience that they shouldn't be overlooked. These can be weekend consulting practices or projects for small businesses, volunteer strategic work for nonprofits in your field, self directed research projects that address real industry challenges, and freelance gigs that build specific skills while generating income. Now, I live in downtown Fort Lauderdale. There are so many businesses and restaurants in my area, right? And I come across a lot of these business owners every day just walking Rocky. I am actually thinking about a consulting venture that I want to be able to offer them. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify a couple and offer to do it for free to be able to get the experience and the testimonials and hopefully parlay those into paid consulting gigs. So it's the same thing with you, right? Even if you don't live in a downtown environment like this, you may frequent a gym, you may frequent your favorite ice cream shop, you may play around with apps, you may get into that and can maybe offer it up to a nonprofit. But think outside the box and think about your network, think about your parents' networks, your church community, your nonprofits, your sports communities, and think about ways that you can add value so that you can use that as experience to demonstrate to companies as you're interviewing for jobs. Now, here's another AI prompt if you need ideas for projects. You can say, hey, I am a whatever major you're in, graduate, interested in whatever industry role you're interested in. Suggest 5 portfolio projects that I can complete in 2 to 4 weeks that would demonstrate valuable skills to potential employers. Include projects that show both technical ability and business impact. Now, let me just say, this is not just for college graduates. This can also be for high school graduates. This can be for high school students or people who are still in college because you want to start building that portfolio early on. And at the end of the day, everybody likes free labor, right? So nobody is going to turn down a helping hand that isn't going to cost them anything. And again, as I mentioned with Pam and some of the other people, they were able to parlay these seemingly, benign opportunities into full-time paid jobs. So you never know where these things may lead, but use that prompt, think outside the box, think about your network where you could help a real business, organization, company with a real problem that you can add value and impact. Okay. The skills cap opportunity. Now, companies are dealing with a real dilemma today, and that is being able to recruit the skills that they need in specific areas. And AI is a huge one. Anything AI, anything tech related. And so, what companies do know is that new grads are going to be able to fill these gaps faster than experienced professionals, right? So, you may have experienced professionals in the organization, but there's a understanding or assumption that we're kind of stuck in our ways. We don't hesitant to learn, but you're going to be an eager beaver. And you can actually learn these skills while you're job searching to be able to address that skills gap. Now, I'm going to share with you some of the high demand areas for new graduates that you can take a look at. Digital marketing and social media strategy. We talked about that. And this is especially in TikTok and Instagram Reels. Now, footnote here, you know, there's there's been this talk about, TikTok going away. So I would definitely balance your TikTok expertise and knowledge with other social media platforms in the event that goes away, that your whole career doesn't go away, right? But right now, TikTok is a hot, 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 hot commodity. So if you are in that field, you like that field, you want to learn more about it, that is absolutely a high demand area for companies. Data visualization and basic data analysis. This is like Excel and Tableau and Power BI. Especially Power BI. I know they had started launching Power BI in my last company. So if you are able to present yourself as an expert or a guru in those areas, that is absolutely something that they see value in. Content creation and copywriting. These are your blogs, your social content, your email marketing. There's high demand for that, particularly for smaller companies who can't afford the big established firms. And again, you can find a lot of those opportunities probably just in, networking or, going around to small businesses and offering your services for free for a period of time, like I talked about before. And then lastly, customer experience design. That is another high demand area for new graduates. And this is where you're doing the user research and the journey mapping, something very valuable for companies. So high demand areas for new graduates, keep those in mind as you are into your job search. Okay, now let's talk about the D in the FDF, and that is demonstrating your value. And this is where we flip the traditional job search on its head. Okay, so most new graduates go into the job search with the mindset of, well, what can this company do for me? But the people who are getting the opportunities are going in asking, what is it I can do for you? So instead of leading with your needs, which is, you need a job and you need benefits and you need experience and training, you lead into the conversations with their needs, what problems you can solve for them, the value you can create, and the value and the results that you can deliver. So I'm going to outline for you now a 5-step value demonstration process that will allow you to identify the opportunities and demonstrate the value. So the first one is researching company challenges. And this goes beyond looking at job postings or Googling or looking at their website, right? You find the real business challenges through their recent earnings calls and press releases as public information, industry trade publications, social media mentions and complaints, Glassdoor reviews mentioning operational issues, and LinkedIn posts from company leaders discussing challenges. Now, if you listen to my podcast, I think it was about offers and negotiations before that, or maybe it's about interviewing. I actually gave you a very rarely known research tool or resource that gives you insider information that 90% of people do not have. So go back and listen to that. I think it was in the interviewing, it's about 3 episodes ago, or DM me below and say, hey, I want that insider resource and I'll send it to you. But it is an absolute game changer because that is going to give you information that's pure gold for your, company research, but also as you are interviewing and talking with companies. Okay. Step 2, develop insights and solutions. Create something valuable that addresses what you discovered. That can be an analysis report with your recommendations. It can be a prototype or mock up of potential solutions, a process improvement proposal with the implementation plan, or it can be market research summary with actionable insights. So when you are able to present that to someone in a company, and they're like, darn, one, they understand the problems that we're dealing with and they have some ideas for solutions. This is somebody that we need on our team. That is how you create value. And look, guys, a lot of this stuff you can get done very easily by AI. Now, again, AI is not going to do it for you. It needs to have your stamp on it. It needs to be yours. But AI can help you do a lot of the legwork and be able to present some really, really high quality products and information that will set you apart from everybody else. Okay. The third step is connect and share value. This is where you want to reach out and share your what you've learned and your insights. And you can find these people on LinkedIn. You can look in a company directory. You may, have a local business or maybe somebody in your network knows somebody that knows somebody. But you can say something like, hey, I noticed that you had this specific challenge. I created this solution analysis, and would you be interested in seeing my approach? If that is a real problem that they're dealing with, why would they say no? Right? Especially if you're offering it for free. But that's a great way to be able to get your foot in the door and lead with what they need. Okay. Now, for the strategic conversation, after you have shared the value, you can say, hey, I would love to learn more about how your team approaches this challenge and share some additional thoughts I've been developing. Again, that goes far beyond the informational interview, right? Where you're just asking them for information on their company or their role or position. You are actually wanting to engage in a conversation about some real business challenges that they're having. And then 5, propose specific contributions. So based on the conversation, you can say, look, I see several ways I can contribute to this area. Would it make sense to discuss how I might get involved? So then you can have that conversation. Maybe it's a short time gig or a short time consulting role, or maybe it can lead to a full time position. You never know. But at least it gets your foot in the door and it is leading with value, leading with impact, right? Versus what you can potentially get from them. Now, Marcus used this approach and he was very successful in it. So you see that he was a recent college graduate, a recent finance graduate, and he was competing against other, experienced candidates for financial analyst roles. And so as he's applying for these jobs, he really wasn't making any progress. So he decided to use the value first approach. So, one, he researched a mid-sized manufacturing company and found they had mentioned inventory optimization challenges in recent earnings calls. Step two, he used the public financial data to create a comprehensive inventory analysis showing 200,000 plus in potential cost savings through better demand forecasting. Three, he sent his analysis to the CFO, who he found on LinkedIn, with a note and said, "Look, I noticed your recent comments or the company's recent comments about inventory challenges, and I created this analysis. The potential savings opportunity seems significant." Well, the CEO was so impressed, he requested to have a call with him to discuss his approach. And so on the call, Marcus proposed a 90-day project based role to implement his recommendations, and he was able to parlay it into a full time financial analyst position. So, this is where he moved from the traditional, seeing a job online, posting and applying for it, and then moving to doing some work that's going to show his value and his impact, connecting with the right person and getting his foot in the door. So I've seen it done several times, and you can absolutely do it as well. So now I'm going to share with you some industry specific value demonstration examples. So for marketing roles, you can do a social media audit with engagement improvement strategy. You can do a content gap analysis for their industry. You can do competitive positioning research with recommendations. And you can also do customer journey mapping with optimization suggestions. For operations role, hey, do process efficiency analysis with cost savings projections, vendor comparison research with negotiation strategies. I like that one. And another one, quality improvement recommendations with measurement frameworks. For tech roles, hey, how about a user experience audit of their website or app? Automation opportunities assessment, technical documentation improvement proposals. These are all things that you can offer to a company for free or for very, very low cost initially to be able to get your foot in the door. It's about, again, showing that value and that impact first on. So now let's talk about the hidden job market. So the reality is that 37% of entry level jobs are not even posted. And here's where the other 63% exist. In growth companies, that's where you're going to find 25% of opportunities. These are Series A and B startups that are rapidly expanding, regional businesses entering new markets, companies pivoting to new business models, and organizations experiencing unexpected growth. Capacity gaps, these are 20% of opportunities. These are, maybe you have a person who's on leave for a period of time. Seasonal business spikes requiring temporary help. New project launches requiring or needing additional bandwidth, and then unexpected departures that are creating immediate needs. This is where, hey, keep your ear to the ground, look at the news, look at LinkedIn. Sometimes you're able to identify these capacity gaps and be able to connect with the right person to, hey, say, hey, I'm available and this is what I can do and this is what I have to offer. And then this other one we talked about is the skill gap opportunities. Those are 18% of the opportunities out there. These are where you're going to see the digital transformation initiatives needing tech savvy talent, social media management requiring platform expertise, data analysis projects needing fresh analytical perspectives, and then also process automation requiring digital native thinking. Now, again, this is where you're going to see 63% of the opportunities that are posted that you could absolutely be a viable competitive candidate. So let's talk about freelancing. You can do freelancing strategically, in the meantime while you're looking for a job, and use it in a way that's going to allow you to build experience and relationships. So some of the common platforms, Upwork and Fiverr, you can focus on projects that are aligned with your career goals. You can, deliver exceptional value to be able to build your portfolio and your testimonials. And sometimes you're also even to convert your freelance clients to full-time opportunities. I mean, I've seen that happen before as well. So, again, if you have skills and a talent and you're looking to build your portfolio, you're looking to build your value and your impact, Upwork and Fiverr are great ways to do that. Now, here are some specialty platforms by field, and you have those listed there. You have some design platforms, writing platforms, tech, and marketing. So take a look at those and see where you might be able to contribute to be able to start building your expertise and portfolio. Okay, so I've talked about networking before. I'm not going to go into it here. There's a whole episode about networking, but I would say networking is so key for recent college graduates. I imagine a lot of you may be back at home with your parents and you are meeting their friends, who will say, hey, how was school? What is your degree in? And what do you want to do? You have to know right out. And this is a perfect time to be able to outline your value and your impact. And you can use AI to help you come up with that script that can absolutely be a game changer on any given day. Okay. But with that, you'll want to, think about joining associations that offer, student and new grad rates, volunteering for committees to demonstrate your capabilities, attending conferences and offer to help with logistics or content, and sharing insights and analysis in association forums. But those are very, very powerful ways to network and to be able to grow your own network. All right, now let's talk about the F in FDF. This is the last F, and this is finalize your selection. So, this is about making strategic decisions when opportunities do arise, and they will arise, and positioning yourself for long term success. So, whenever you get a job, a lot of times, especially if you're a recent grad, the main thing you're going to take a look at is the money, right? But this is such an important time of your careers at the very beginning, and it's going to really set the stage and the trajectory for your career going forward. So it is not a decision to take lightly, and you want to take into consideration all the factors. And so, what are those? One is the learning, and that should be weighed 30%. How much are you going to learn? What is the quality of the mentorship and the training that you're going to get? Are you going to get exposure to different functions and strategic decisions? Are there skills development that will enhance your future marketability? What is the growth trajectory? That weighs 25%. What is the career path? What is the advancement? What does it look like over the next 2 to 3 years? What is the company's growth rate and industry outlook? What are the opportunities to take on increasing responsibilities? And then what is the track record for promoting from within? Now, these are things that you will want to ask and vet out during the interview process. And it's easy to let companies off the hook too easily where they're not really giving you factual information around these things. So if you can possibly check with the alum, right? Who may be working with that company and find out firsthand what their experience has been. Or if you can find other people, and you can look on LinkedIn and see other people who may have recently joined the company, recently come out of school, get what their account is, be able to get a real sense of what the growth trajectory is for a person like yourself. Then you have market value branding this way, building this way is 20%. What is the brand recognition of the company and the role? Now, I had no idea when I graduated from grad school. I was just looking for a job, right? And I was fortunate enough to do my internship with Allied Signal. I know I'm dating myself here, Allied Signal. So Allied Signal actually bought Honeywell and they kept the Honeywell name. So that's the company I actually started my career with. And I remember when I got my offer from them, one of my classmates who had graduated a couple of years before me, who had joined the company, she was like, "Latanya, you just hit the lottery." Because having that Allied Signal Honeywell name on my resume was almost as big as having an Ivy League school degree on my resume. So the company that you're working for, the brand recognition is huge. Now, that's not to say that it's everything, right? You can work for a very little known company and be able to wear many hats, be able to have a seat at the table that will give you invaluable experience. So I wouldn't just put all the weight into brand recognition, but I'm just bringing it up to say that brand recognition of the company and the role that you're in absolutely carries weight. Also, what are the transferable skills and experience you're going to gain? What are the network and relationship building opportunities? And what opportunities do you have to enhance your resume and LinkedIn? Is it going to really lend any credibility to that? Then finally, you have the compensation package. And you see it's only weighed 15%. A lot of people will weigh that a lot more. But again, at this point of your career, I think it's these other things that warrant being weighed more heavily because it is going to set the stage for the path going forward. So that's why compensation is further down. So one, you're going to look at the total compensation, right? We talked about that last week in last week's podcast. So if you want to do a deep dive in terms of the total compensation package, then take a look at that podcast. But take a look at the total compensation. What is the cost of living considerations? Where you'll be working. What is the salary progression potential? And then what are some of the non-monetary benefits that may be important to you, such as, work from home, flexibility, the culture, so on and so forth. And then your risk assessment is going to weigh 10%. This is, what does the company forecast look like in terms of the financial stability and funding status, industry disruption potential, role security and elimination risk, and then finally, personal financial situation and risk tolerance. That is a matrix that you can take a look at based on where you are in your career, coming fresh out of school, recently out of school, that will really be so important starting out as an adult in the career world, right? Okay. Now, as a new graduate, you can absolutely negotiate, right? Even though a lot of people feel like they have to take the first offer that comes to them, that is not true. When I graduated from grad school and they gave me my offer, I countered and said, "Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity, but I don't know if this is reflective of the experience that I have coming in that my peers don't have." And they said, "You know what? You're absolutely right." And they increased the salary. Now, when the salary is not negotiable, and I think in this day and time, there may be less room to negotiate on the salary, but there are absolutely some other things you can negotiate on. These are your learning opportunities. What access to training and conferences do you have? Skills development. Is the company willing to pay for courses and certifications or coaching? Mentorship access, regular meetings with senior leadership, invaluable. What is the performance review timeline? Can you get an accelerated, review based on specific achievements and milestones? And then project exposure. What opportunity are you going to have to work on high visibility initiatives? Now, I will say in my last company, the I would say 4 years back, I was so unhappy and disenchanted and just kind of really bored of the whole rigmarole. And they promoted me into a new job. And even though I got laid off and that job was eliminated, 2 years later, they sent me to the Cornell Industrial Relations School in Manhattan. It was a 2-week program, over $5,000. And it was the best thing ever. And that is something that I was able to take with me, right? is something I was able to take with me, is something that has been of benefit to me going forward, even beyond my last company. So definitely vet those things out to find out what learning and skill development and mentorships are you going to have available to you, because those are things that you'll be able to take with you beyond, your tenure at the particular company. um Alternative option leverage would be, hey, I'm considering going to graduate school. What opportunities are there for, tuition reimbursement? If you're doing freelancing, let them know that up in advance, see if there's any conflict there. And then also say, well, hey, is there an opportunity to work in another geography? And there may be an opportunity to do that. So those are some things that you can negotiate on beyond the salary. Now, sometimes you'll find that a role just is not a fit. And turning down any job offer is sometimes gut wrenching because, the process is kind of long for some of these jobs, right? And you've been dealing with a recruiter and or HR sometimes for months on end, only to go back and say, well, hey, thank you, but no, thank you. But there's a way that you can do that that will still maintain the relationship and, hopefully keep the door open for down the road. But as you are evaluating your job offers, these are some red flags that you should look out for. One is companies with high new graduate turnover. So you can check Glassdoor, but again, this is where your alum will be able to really give you some good tea, so to speak, in terms of company dynamics and their experience. So look into your alumni directory, see if you can find those people working for those companies. You can find them on LinkedIn as well. Reach out to them, have the conversation, find out what their experience has been, and get a sense of what the turnover is. Roles that don't build transferable skills. Um, Again, at this point in your career, you want to be able to keep learning and growing. So you want to be in a role that's going to give you transferable skills that you can translate and parlay into other roles in other companies down the road. Organizations with unclear advancement pathways. I've seen so many times where people come into a company because they expect to be able to be given so many opportunities and be on a fast track, and they just don't, come into play. They don't come into reality. And so that is something that you'll want to know early on. Positions that seem too good to be true. And this is, particularly for your startups where they promise you a great amount of equity and very little basic salary. You really, really, really want to research those and vet those out to make sure you're not being taken, advantage of, and that there is a true upside and good payoff down the road. And then finally, companies experiencing financial distress or leadership turnover. I have seen where people have accepted a role in a company that was experiencing financial distress only to be let go, released, laid off 2 months, 2 weeks down the road. So you will definitely want to evaluate, you know, the the financial performance of the company to be comfortable in your decision. Now, another strategy you can utilize during this period that you're looking for a job is contract to hire. 50% of contract jobs for recent graduates do convert to permanent positions. So you can use it as a strategic entry point. So there are many benefits to doing a contract to hire role. There's a lower risk for the employer, and it makes them more willing to try out new graduates. There's an opportunity for you to prove your value before, they make a permanent decision, before you make a permanent decision. This often faster getting on board versus the traditional recruiting process for full-time roles. And sometimes it can lead to better permanent offers because you are able to negotiate based on what you have so far demonstrated as far as your value and impact is concerned. Okay. So I even though you want a full-time job, I wouldn't take the contract to hire roles completely off the table because those can really be some good opportunities. As a matter of fact, the job that I had before my last one, that was a contract to full-time position. And it was the best thing ever because I was paid on an hourly rate and it was really good. Okay, so now I'm going to give you some industry specific playbooks that you can use. And these are just more how you can position yourself based on your particular industry or degree. So I'm not going to go over these in detail. If you want these, send me a note down below or send me an email to info@exit2excel.com. But for your liberal arts and BA graduates, your biggest challenge, the perception is that your degree isn't practical, and your advantage is versatility and critical thinking. So you have some winning strategies there. Position yourself for roles requiring cross functional communication, emphasizing your analytical and research skills, targeting companies undergoing change management or customer experience improvements. And then you have some target opportunities there. For my business, finance, and accounting graduates, your challenge is competing against experienced professionals, but your advantage is your current knowledge and your analytical skills. So you have your winning strategies there, focusing on companies that need those skills, targeting organizations implementing new financial systems or processes, emphasizing your familiarity with current software and analytical tools, and positioning yourself for rotational programs. Now, rotational programs in companies are outstanding. And if you are able to get in a rotational program, absolutely do, even if it's at a lower pay, because you're going to get the experience, you're going to get the exposure, you're going to get the support, you're going to get the mentorship. I actually did an HR leadership program, rotational program with Allied Signal. And it was modeled after GE's, which GE was considered to be the gold standard at the time. And so that having that on my resume and that experience was invaluable going forward in my career. Absolutely invaluable. So look for those rotational programs. And then for STEM graduates, your primary challenge is that tech hiring has become more competitive as we have seen the tech industry really slow down a lot. And your advantage is your technical problem solving capability. And you have your winning strategies and target opportunities there. Now, I will say for anybody, any job seeker, it can really be a hit to your mental. Okay. Getting the rejections, being in front of the computer, going through the interview process. So you got to take care of your mental. And particularly for, new graduates, the job search now involves multiple rejections over an 8-month period. So you really need to be conscious and protective of your mental health for sustained success. So I suggest that you structure your day like a professional. Treat this like a job. Your job search is a job. And here's an example of some things you can do here, a daily schedule framework you can follow that goes from, your physical activity, your learning and development, your networking for accountability, and celebrating your wins. And then here's a 37 contact reality check, in that, the average graduate who successfully networks is going to make 37 significant contacts before they land their role. Think about that, 37. And this is over informational interviews, networking conversations, and also formal applications. So to really manage it well, it's good to have a good tracking system. Um, go through a check process yourself, a weekly check-in to see, hey, what is yielding you the best results, and develop a support system. There are probably other your classmates who are in the same situation. You guys can join forces to be able to leverage each other's networks and also, use each other for support. And then finally, you also have your professional development communities that can be of help as well. Okay, so let's bring this all home. So, again, the first draft framework, the FDF framework, isn't just about finding a job. It is really about positioning yourself as the talent that companies need in order to be successful. So, I have an action plan for you. If you are serious about your job search, you're serious about landing that role, here's your action plan for the next couple of weeks and days. For this week, audit your digital presence on LinkedIn. take a look at your headline, make sure it is impactful, it's eye catching. I did a whole podcast, hour long podcast on LinkedIn. So go and check that out if you haven't already. Create a job search tracking system with weekly targets. Identify 10 companies with growth indicators, and then research three industry specific communities to join. This month, you'll want to create your first value demonstration project addressing a real business challenge. Reach out to 15 alumni and target roles using your value focused approach. Join two professional communities and begin contributing insights. And then apply the AI prompts and utilize AI to optimize all of your materials and outreach. And then over the next 90 days, you'll want to conduct your informational interviews focused on providing value, build three portfolio projects demonstrating different capabilities, apply to 15 to 20 strategic opportunities, not just spraying and praying, but really looking at the quality of the opportunities you're applying for. And then also consider the alternative entry points we talked about, like the contract to hire or even fellowship programs. So that's a game plan. Contact me on my social media. Let me know how you're coming along. Let me know if you have any questions. I do believe that if you put some of these things in play, it's going to put you ahead of the game, especially compared to other people who are not willing to put in the work. So I do believe that, and the best of luck to you. So remember, I am LT, your HR secret weapon, here to support you. We're all in it to win, right? And again, the job search is not a game, but you got to treat it like one. Okay. So we are here to play to win, not just to apply. We are here to win. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this with other people who need this. 'Cause I know there's a lot of recent graduates, not just this year, but also last year, who are out here looking for a job. So share this with them. Follow me on my social media, Exit to Excel, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. And I'll see you there. And until then, hey, just have a fabulous week. Remember to take care of yourself. We are in this to win together. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.